here's my question. What if some sicko decided to combine Flappy Bird with the progression mechanics of a dungeon crawler? And this question is what brought me to the idea for Flappy Dungeon. And so this is some concept art. I imagined that it would be Flappy Bird, but there would be combat and weapons and enemies. There would be dashes, and it would be a sort of arcadey, expressive movement style game. And I'm really happy to say that through lots of feedback and lots of great advice, I was able to come up with something I think matches it pretty closely to that original vision. So you'll see that the character can collect coins, he can dash, he can attack enemies, he's avoiding, he's trying to stay alive for 30 seconds. And there was also a great emphasis on juice or sauce, as you might say. How do you make something as restrictive as Flappy Bird feel really engaging and addictive and cool? Here we can see that he's choosing the room. There's different rooms that have spawned, and so he's decided to go for the room he thinks might be easiest. And so then this brings us to the second level. So I was able to make this. And so this was my original loop. My original plan was clearing rooms would get you loot and kind of cool weapons, and then that would lead to you becoming stronger. And I managed to do most of that. All right, 66%. That is not a failing grade. So that's right. And so I didn't fail. And so here are the mechanics. There's flapping, right? There's dashing. There is combat, in which the stronger player, defeats the weaker player. And then room selection, as you saw, the idea of not being taken out of any menu, but you're making a decision of what kind of level you want to select next. And so I was able to do that. And so for my inspiration, I really liked the kind of expressive, low-quality MS Paint art. And I also really liked how JRPGs and Japanese games, they just overdo medieval themes. I mean, they just beat that horse until it's dead. And so I wanted to join in. And so I think I was able to kind of have some fun. And so that's some of the things that I made. And so for the lessons that I learned, the major thing that I learned here was playability over scalability. And I know I just came up with that. Isn't that crazy? There's just like, the words just came in, no ChatGPT. But genuinely, like, I was having this conversation with my older brother, right? It's yesterday night, and I've got, the game to make, and he calls me, and he's like, Andy, would you rather waste your time on something no one will see, or would you rather spend your time on something someone will see? And what that meant was, you can think about algorithms, and you can think about scalable code, and you can think about good design all day, but I would show up to Game Heads meetings, and my bird, he doesn't have a sword. And they'd be like, why doesn't the bird have a sword? And I'd be like, he still does damage, like he still kills enemies. And they'd be like, dude, that bird does not have a sword, right? So there is something for good code, but there is also something for just like making the thing look the way it ought to. And so I really learned some valuable lessons here, that some of this code only exists for the demo. There's a lot of development time just to make things look the way that they ought to. And a lot of code has to be scrapped, but that's not like object-oriented, but that's still okay, right? It looks like it's supposed to, it does what it's supposed to, and that's what all games are at the end of the day, right? So that was Flappy Dungeon. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm Andy.